All right, so let's talk about the Segway.
Yep.
You remember that self-balancing scooter that was going to change the world?
Right.
Turns out it didn't quite hit the mark.
It did not.
Today we're using this YouTube video essay as our guide to kind of dive into why the Segway ultimately flopped.
Interesting.
I mean, we've all heard the basic story.
Yeah.
But today we're going beyond that.
I think what's fascinating here is that the Segway's failure wasn't just, a matter of bad luck or simple missteps.
Yeah.
It actually reveals some pretty deep insights about innovation, marketing, and how even brilliant ideas can go wrong.
So set the scene for us.
Okay.
It's the early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
This invention is shrouded in secrecy.
Right.
And the inventor, Dean Kamen, is already a bit of a legend.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking denim-clad, helicopter flying, owns his own island.
Yeah, a bit of an eccentric character.
Kind of legend.
For sure. Kamen already had this track record of, life-changing inventions.
Yeah.
Portable dialysis machines, heart stents, things that genuinely made a difference.
Right.
So when he starts dropping these hints about this new invention, expectations just go through the roof.
And Kamen really leans into the hype, saying the Segway will be bigger than the car.
Right.
As commonplace as the PC.
As commonplace as the PC.
He even gets some seriously big names to buy in.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs.
Yeah, Jobs even predicted it would be as big as the personal computer.
Wow.
Which, in the early 2000s, that's like saying it would change the fabric of society.
Right.
John Doerr, the guy who backed Amazon and Google, said the Segway would hit $1 billion in sales faster than any product ever.
So the stage is set for something absolutely massive.
Absolutely.
And then it's revealed on Good Morning America.
I know.
And it's a scooter.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Pretty cool scooter.
A cool scooter, but definitely not the revolution everyone was expecting.
No, not at all.
It's a classic case of over-promising and under-delivering.
Yeah.
I mean, Kamen and his team, whether intentionally or not, tapped into this almost sci-fi level of anticipation.
Right.
People were literally imagining teleportation.
Yeah, I mean, compared to that, a scooter, no matter how technologically advanced, was bound to disappoint.
So the hype definitely backfired.
For sure.
But from what I'm seeing in this video essay, it wasn't just the hype that did the Segway in.
Right.
Kamen seemed to really fumble the marketing side of things.
Yeah, he was a brilliant engineer, no doubt.
Right.
But marketing, not so much.
Yeah, he built a company from scratch to handle the whole Segway operation, which, might seem logical.
Yeah.
But he missed this key opportunity to partner with an existing company with, established marketing expertise, something he'd done successfully with his medical devices.
Exactly.
And then he completely ignored some crucial advice from Steve Jobs, who, as we know, was kind of a marketing genius.
Yeah.
Jobs told him to launch with just one model to keep things simple.
Right.
But Segway went with two right off the bat.
2 models?
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost as if Jobs, even back then, understood how choice overload can paralyze consumers.
Yeah.
And he had a point about the design, too.
Okay.
He told Kamen the Segway's look didn't match the revolutionary tech inside.
Interesting.
Jobs always believed design should reflect innovation.
Right.
But the Segway looked clunky, almost industrial.
Yeah, it's like Kamen was so focused on the technical brilliance, how it works, that he completely overlooked how to present that brilliance to the average person.
Yeah.
Almost like he expected people to just get it because of the technology, not because of how it was presented or how it fit into their lives.
Yeah, exactly.
And think about the launch strategy. Jobs was all about the big, splashy reveal to capitalize on that buzz they'd built.
Right.
Instead, Segway opted for this slow rollout.
Interesting.
Initially making it available only to companies like police departments and theme parks.
Cool.
Which meant the average person couldn't even buy one for a whole year after the reveal.
Interesting.
It really makes you wonder if Kamen was deliberately trying to create a niche market.
Yeah.
Or if he just completely misjudged the importance of affordability and accessibility for mass adoption.
Yeah, that delay definitely killed a lot of the initial excitement.
Yeah.
And to be honest, even with perfect marketing, the Segway had some built-in impracticalities that were hard to ignore.
Let's break those down.
Okay.
For starters, it was illegal to ride on sidewalks in many places.
Really?
Which seems kind of ridiculous for a vehicle meant for short-distance urban travel.
Right. Imagine the frustration.
Yeah.
You buy this supposedly revolutionary transportation device.
Right.
And then you can't even legally use it on the sidewalk.
Yes. Exactly.
Segway spent a fortune trying to change these laws.
Yeah.
But they didn't have much luck.
Oh, wow.
It really highlights the importance of understanding the legal and regulatory landscape before you even launch a product.
Then there's a simple fact that the Segway was heavy, had a pretty limited range, only about 12 miles on a charge, and required both hands to operate.
Okay.
Compare that to a bicycle, which is lighter, cheaper, and can go much farther.
And much cheaper.
Yeah.
And don't forget the price tag.
Oh, right.
A cool $5,000.
$5,000.
Now, part of that was due to the expensive battery technology, which was cutting edge at the time.
Right.
And they were manufactured in the U.S., not overseas.
Okay.
Which added to the cost.
Right.
But even Segway's own former VP of marketing admitted it was overpriced.
Really?
They were basically pricing themselves out of the mass market.
It makes you wonder if maybe Kamen was so focused on the engineering marvel of the Segway that he didn't fully grasp how price sensitivity plays a role in a product's success.
It's a common pitfall for inventors.
Yeah.
Sometimes that passion for the tech can blind you to the realities of the market.
For sure.
But the Segway's troubles didn't stop there.
Oh, no.
There were also some serious safety concerns.
Okay.
And some, well, let's just say, not so great PR.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Segway definitely had a bit of a learning curve.
A learning curve.
Which led to some high-profile tumbles.
Yeah.
President George W. Bush falling off one is probably the most famous.
That's a classic.
Right.
And Ellen DeGeneres taking a spill on her show.
Oh, yeah.
Even Usain Bolt got taken out by a cameraman on a Segway.
Wow.
Add to that a couple of product recalls due to malfunctions.
Oh, no.
And the Segway started to develop a bit of a reputation for being more hazardous than helpful.
It's a shame because the technology itself was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
It's really a testament to how important safety and public perception are when it comes to new tech.
Absolutely. No matter how innovative a product is, if people perceive it as dangerous or unreliable, it's going to be an uphill battle to gain acceptance.
Yeah. And unfortunately for the Segway, once the safety concerns started making headlines, it wasn't long before the jokes started rolling in.
Yeah, and that's where the cultural perception really starts to take hold.
Right.
Movies like Paul Blart Mall Cop
Chuckles
cemented this image of the Segway rider as kind of goofy.
Yeah.
Out of touch, even a little lazy.
Right, and pop culture piled on.
Yeah.
Segways started popping up in shows like Arrested Development.
Right.
And even Weird Al Yankovic's music video for White and Nerdy.
Of course.
Always playing into that same stereotype.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly the device that was supposed to revolutionize transportation became a punchline.
It's a pretty incredible example of how pop culture can shape our perceptions of a product, often to its detriment.
Often to its detriment.
And once that image solidified, it was tough for the Segway to shake it.
Yeah.
So after all that, the hype, the missteps, the accidents, the jokes, where did the Segway end up?
Well, it was sold a few times, eventually landing with a Chinese company called Ninebot in 2015.
Okay.
But the writing was pretty much on the wall at that point.
Yeah.
And in 2020, production of the classic Segway finally stopped.
Wow.
Too expensive, too outdated.
Makes sense.
Ninebot shifted its focus to other products like electric scooters.
Oh, wow.
Which, ironically, were much more practical and affordable.
Right.
And ultimately probably contributed to the Segway's demise.
It's a fascinating twist, isn't it?
Yeah.
The company that acquired the Segway ended up producing the very product that in many ways made it obsolete.
Full circle.
So looking back, was the Segway a brilliant invention with terrible execution, or was it just destined to fail from the start?
It's a complex question.
Yeah.
There's no doubt the Segway was a remarkable piece of engineering.
Right.
But it's also a classic example of how innovation alone isn't enough.
Yeah.
Marketing, practicality, safety, and even cultural perception, they all play a huge role in a product's success or failure.
And in the Segway's case, it seems like those factors combine to create a perfect storm of, well, not so perfect circumstances.
Indeed, and that leads to a really interesting question.
Okay.
What other seemingly revolutionary inventions of today might be heading down a similar path?
Right.
What can we learn from the Segway story to avoid those pitfalls?
That's a great question,
Yeah.
and one we're definitely going to dig into
Oh.
as we continue this deep dive.
All right, stay tuned.
I'm ready. You know, it's interesting to think about the Segway in the context of other inventions
Okay.
that were initially met with skepticism.
Okay.
Like, remember when the telephone was first introduced?
Mm-hmm.
People thought it was a silly novelty, totally unnecessary.
I can just imagine the conversations back then.
Why would I need to talk to someone far away when I can just send a letter?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now, of course,
Yeah.
we can't imagine life without the telephone.
Right.
It completely revolutionized communication.
Yeah.
Which brings us to an important point.
Okay.
Sometimes inventions that seem strange or impractical at first
Right.
can end up having a massive impact.
Okay, so sometimes the weird ideas turn out to be game changers.
Yeah.
But are there other examples
Oh, yeah.
besides the Segway
Sure.
of inventions that were super hyped up
Oh,
but
absolutely.
then completely flop?
One that comes to mind is Google Glass.
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
You remember those?
Everyone was buzzing about them a few years ago.
Yeah.
Access information, take pictures, make calls all through your glasses.
Well, through your glasses, it sounded pretty cool.
It sounded pretty cool.
The problem was a lot of the same issues that plagued the Segway
Okay.
popped up with Google Glass.
Like what?
Privacy concerns were huge.
Oh.
People worried about being recorded without their knowledge.
Right.
Plus, let's be honest, those glasses were not exactly stylish.
Yeah, they were kind of clunky looking. I remember thinking they made people look a bit like cyborgs.
Yeah, and then there was the price tag.
Oh, okay.
They initially launched at a whopping $1,500.
Wow.
Way too expensive for most consumers.
Right.
So again, we see this pattern of hype, impracticality, and a high price point.
So it sounds like the Segway wasn't an isolated case.
No.
There's this whole category of inventions
Right.
that just haven't quite lived up to their initial promise.
Yeah.
What do you think separates the inventions that truly succeed?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
I think one key factor is timing.
Okay.
Sometimes an invention can be brilliant,
Yeah.
but if the market isn't ready for it,
Yeah.
it's going to struggle.
Right.
Imagine trying to sell smartphones back in the 1980s.
Wow.
The technology might have been possible,
Okay.
but the infrastructure, the consumer demand, even the cultural context just wouldn't have been there.
Okay, so timing is key.
Timing is key.
What else?
Another huge factor is practicality.
Okay.
An invention might be impressive from a technological standpoint,
Right.
but if it isn't practical for everyday use,
Yeah.
it's probably not going to catch on.
Right.
It needs to solve a real problem
Okay.
and be easy for people to integrate into their lives.
Like with the Segway.
Exactly.
The limited range and the whole sidewalk legality issue definitely made it less practical for everyday use.
For sure. And then, of course, there's affordability.
Right.
No matter how groundbreaking an invention is,
Yeah.
it won't gain widespread adoption if it's priced out of reach for most people.
Makes sense. And what about marketing and safety?
Yeah,
We saw how those played a role in the Segway's demise.
absolutely.
Eff-
Effective marketing is crucial to generating awareness and excitement,
Right.
and safety is paramount.
Yeah.
Any hint of danger or risk,
Right.
and consumers are going to shy away.
It sounds like a successful invention needs a perfect storm of factors.
It does.
The right technology, the right timing, the right marketing,
Yeah.
and a focus on practicality and safety.
It's a tall order, and even then there are no guarantees.
Yeah.
Consumer behavior is complex and can be unpredictable.
Right?
Sometimes even the best inventions just don't capture the public's imagination.
But isn't that part of what makes innovation so fascinating?
It is.
It's all about pushing boundaries and seeing what takes hold.
Absolutely. And learning from both the successes and the failures.
Right.
The Segway story might be a cautionary tale,
Yeah.
but it's also a reminder of the ingenuity that drives human progress.
So now I'm curious.
Okay.
Are there any innovations that are creating a lot of buzz right now that remind you of the Segway?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
One area that immediately comes to mind
Okay.
is the world of self-driving cars.
Autonomous vehicles.
Yeah,
There's been a lot of hype around them for years now.
and for good reason.
Okay.
The potential benefits are huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Increased safety, less traffic,
Right.
and greater accessibility for people who can't drive themselves.
Yeah.
But just like with the Segway,
Oh.
we're seeing some potentially problematic patterns emerge,
Like what?
where some companies are making these really bold, almost outlandish claims
Okay.
about when these vehicles will be widely available.
Right.
And while it's exciting to think about a future with driverless cars,
Yeah.
the reality is the technology is still in its early stages.
Okay.
There are major technical hurdles to overcome,
Mm-hmm.
safety concerns to address,
Right.
and let's not forget, the ethical dilemmas
Right.
that come with handing over control to a machine.
You're also seeing some resistance on the regulatory and legal side, right?
Absolutely.
Our current laws and infrastructure aren't really set up to handle autonomous vehicles.
Exactly. It's going to take time to adapt our systems
Yeah.
to accommodate this new technology,
Right.
and that's assuming the public is even ready to embrace it.
But that's another big question mark. Are people actually willing to trust their lives to a self-driving car?
Right.
I think there's still a lot of skepticism and uncertainty there.
It's a big leap of faith. I think it will likely take years, maybe even decades,
Wow.
for self-driving cars to become fully integrated into our society.
Right.
It's not going to happen overnight,
Yeah.
and we need to be realistic about that.
So are you saying self-driving cars are destined to go the way of the Segway?
Not necessarily,
Okay.
but I think it's crucial to be aware of the potential pitfalls
Okay.
and to approach this technology with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Right.
We can't let the hype blind us to the very real challenges that lie ahead.
It's about finding that balance between excitement and caution.
Exactly, the potential is there.
Yeah.
But we need to be thoughtful and responsible in how we develop and implement this technology.
Okay, so self-driving cars are definitely on our radar.
On the radar.
What other innovations are giving you Segway vibes?
Another area I think is worth watching is virtual reality or VR.
VR, it's all so futuristic.
Yeah.
Headsets, immersive gaming, virtual worlds. The possibilities seem endless.
The potential is definitely there.
Okay.
Think about it. Entertainment, education training, even therapy,
Wow.
all transformed by VR.
But as with any emerging technology,
Yes,
there are hurdles to overcome.
there are.
Let me guess you're going to say, but again,
It wouldn't be a deep dive without a little healthy skepticism, right?
Right.
The truth is VR headsets can be expensive and not exactly comfortable to wear.
okay.
Some people experience motion sickness.
And there are those concerns about addiction and social isolation too.
Right.
People spending all their time in virtual worlds,
Yeah,
neglecting real-life relationships. It's a valid concern.
absolutely. And is similar to the challenges the Segway face with regulations.
Right.
VR is raising questions about privacy data security,
Okay.
even the potential for virtual crime.
It's almost like a whole new set of legal and ethical considerations
It is.
we haven't even fully grasped yet.
It's uncharted territory in many ways. But it's definitely something we need to be paying attention to as this technology evolves.
So just like with self-driving cars, it sounds like VR is an innovation with incredible potential.
Yeah.
But also some potential pitfalls we need to be mindful of.
Precisely. I think a good dose of cautious optimism is the best approach.
Yeah.
We need to learn from past mistakes
Right.
and make sure this technology is developed and implemented responsibly.
So to bring it back to our main topic, the Segway,
Okay?
what lessons can we learn from its failure
Yeah.
that might help us navigate these new and emerging technologies? What can we do to ensure that we don't repeat the same mistakes?
I think one of the biggest takeaways is the importance of managing expectations.
Okay.
The Segway suffered because the hype got so out of control
Right.
that the actual product could never live up to it.
It's like they set the bar impossibly high and then stumbled trying to reach it.
Exactly.
Right.
So when it comes to things like self-driving cars and VR,
Right.
we need to be realistic about the timeline and the challenges involved. We can't let the excitement overshadow the practical realities.
It's also about being mindful of the potential unintended consequences.
Yeah.
Like with Google Glass, the privacy concerns really caught them off guard. It's important to think through those implications early on.
Right.
And be prepared to address them.
Absolutely. And let's not forget about affordability and accessibility.
Okay.
If these new technologies are going to have a truly transformative impact,
Right.
they need to be accessible to a wide range of people, not just a select few.
It's about making sure these innovations benefit society as a whole, not just a privileged segment.
Exactly. And finally, we need to remember that technology is only one piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
Success depends on a whole ecosystem of factors,
Also.
including social acceptance, infrastructure regulations,
Right.
and even cultural norms.
It's about understanding the bigger picture and making sure these innovations fit seamlessly into the fabric of our lives.
Exactly.
Which, when you think about it, brings us back to the Segway.
Hmm.
Maybe if they had focused less on the cool factor
Right.
and more on how it could actually solve real-world problems,
Yeah.
the outcome might have been different.
It's an interesting thought, perhaps, if they had positioned it as a practical solution for short-distance commutes or as an accessible transportation option for people with mobility challenges. It might have resonated more with the public.
Maybe the lesson here is that sometimes the most revolutionary inventions aren't the flashiest or the most hyped up ones. It's the ones that solve real problems and improve people's lives in meaningful ways.
It's about thinking beyond the wow factor and focusing on the real-world impact.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From the Segway's downfall to the potential pitfalls of self-driving cars and virtual reality.
A lot of ground.
But before we wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question to ponder. What other seemingly revolutionary inventions of today might end up being tomorrow's cautionary tales? What factors will determine their fate?
That's a great question to leave our audience with. It encourages them to think critically about the technologies we're embracing and to consider the long-term implications.
And to remember that the future of innovation isn't just about groundbreaking technology. It's about using that technology responsibly and ethically to create a better world for everyone.
Well said.
Now let's move on to the final part of our deep dive. Where we'll explore some alternative scenarios for the Segway.
Interesting.
And consider what might have been. Stay tuned.
I'm ready.
You know, as we've been talking about all these different innovations, it strikes me that there's this common thread running through so many of them.
I'm curious. What's that?
Well, it seems like a lot of these inventions, regardless of whether they ultimately succeed or fail, tap into our very human desire for a better future.
That's a really insightful observation. We're constantly looking for ways to improve our lives, to make things easier, faster, more efficient. Innovation often springs from that very basic human urge to progress.
Exactly. The Segway promised a revolution in transportation. Self-driving cars dangle the possibility of safer roads and more free time. Virtual reality tempts us with immersive experiences and limitless virtual worlds.
And even the inventions that don't quite make it can offer valuable lessons, paving the way for future breakthroughs.
That's true. The Segway may not have become the ubiquitous mode of transportation Dean Kamen envisioned. But it did contribute to the development of self-balancing technology, which is now used in electric scooters, hoverboards, even some assistive devices.
It's a great reminder that innovation is an iterative process. We build on the successes and failures of those who came before us. Constantly striving to create something better.
And sometimes the inventions that have the biggest impact are the ones that come from the most unexpected places.
Absolutely. Who could have predicted that the humble Post-it note, which was basically a byproduct of a failed adhesive experiment, would become such an indispensable office supply used by millions around the world?
Or that the internet, which was initially developed as a communication tool for the military, would completely revolutionize the way we live, work, and connect with each other.
It's a testament to the unpredictable nature of innovation. We can't always anticipate which ideas will take off and which ones will fizzle out.
But that's also what makes it so exciting, right?
It is.
The future is full of possibilities.
It is.
And who knows what groundbreaking inventions are just around the corner waiting to be discovered.
Can't wait to find out. And I'm sure our listeners are just as curious.
Speaking of our listeners, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to shift gears for a moment and pose a what-if scenario.
Oh, I love a good what-if. Lay it on me.
We've spent a lot of time dissecting the Segway's shortcomings. The marketing missteps, the clunky design, the high price tag. But what if things had gone differently?
I'm intrigued. Paint me a picture of this alternate reality.
Imagine if Dean Kamen had actually taken Steve Jobs' advice to heart. What if the Segway had launched with a single sleek model that really captured the public's imagination? What if it had been marketed as a fun, eco-friendly way to zip around town instead of this revolutionary transportation solution? And what if, crucially, it had been priced at a point that made it accessible to the average person?
It's fascinating to think about. It's like a parallel universe where the Segway becomes a cultural icon instead of punchline.
Do you think in that scenario, the Segway could have achieved the kind of widespread adoption that Kamen had dreamed of?
It's tough to say. But it's definitely an interesting thought. Maybe if things had been just a little bit different, the Segway could have been a much bigger success.
It's impossible to say for sure, of course.
Of course.
But it does highlight how even seemingly small decisions can have a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Shaping the trajectory of an invention. Maybe a different marketing approach, a more appealing design, a lower price point. Maybe those things could have tipped the scales in the Segway's favor.
It's a great reminder that innovation isn't just about the technology itself,
Right.
but about all the choices that surround it.
Yeah.
From design and marketing to pricing and distribution.
And it's about being willing to adapt and evolve as those factors change.
Absolutely.
Maybe the Segway, even with all the right choices, simply wasn't the right product for the right time.
Or maybe it was just ahead of its time. After all, we are seeing a surge in popularity for electric scooters and other micro-mobility devices now.
That's true. Maybe the Segway was simply a precursor to the transportation revolution that's happening right now.
It's a possibility. And it speaks to that unpredictable nature of innovation we were talking about earlier. Sometimes an idea that fails in one era can find success in another.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into the world of the Segway.
It's been a pleasure exploring the twists and turns of this fascinating story.
We've learned about the Segway's origins,
Yeah.
the hype that surrounded it,
Yeah.
the reasons behind its failure,
Right.
and ultimately the lessons we can glean from its journey.
And hopefully we've sparked some interesting thoughts and conversations among our listeners.
Absolutely. As always, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep imagining the possibilities.
Great advice.
Because the future is full of surprises.
Yes, it is.
This has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for listening.
Until next time, as always, subscribe to our channel, like this video, and comment below.
Yeah, leave us your thoughts.
Let us know what you think.
And don't forget to check out the links in the description. You might find some useful stuff there. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.